to Red Horror Tale. My name is Oxley. 3 bodies, 3 coffins, dug back out of the ground, and every one of them poisoned. Between April 1928 and March 1929, 3 members of a well-off South Croydon family died, one after another, each struck down without warning after an ordinary meal at home. Edmund Duff, Vera Sidney, Violet Sidney, a brother-in-law and the mother and daughter who outlived him, but only just. When investigators examined the exhumed remains, the answer was the same every time: arsenic. Inquests were held, experts testified, and yet no one was ever charged. No one was ever convicted. How the poison reached each victim was never proven, and whether the same hand was responsible for all 3 deaths, that was never established either. Nearly a century later, the poisoner of Birdhurst Rise has no name. Welcome. We are going to lay every piece of evidence on the board together. By the time we are done, the question will be yours to answer. Who poisoned the family of Birdhurst Rise? Chapter 1. 3 graves, 1 secret. 3 coffins lifted from the earth, one by one. South Croydon, London. A respectable street, a family of some standing. Within a single year, April 1928 to March 1929, 3 of them were gone. Edmund Duff, aged 59, was first. Then Vera Sidney, his sister-in-law. Then Violet Sidney, Vera's mother. March 1929. The 3rd death in less than 12 months. When the bodies were examined, the finding was the same in all 3 cases: arsenic. The inquest concluded that at least some of these deaths were murder. How the poison reached each victim was never proven. Think about what the timeline tells you. 3 deaths, 1 family, 1 year. What does that pattern suggest to you? Whether all 3 deaths were the work of the same hand, that was never established. If the poison was deliberate, and the evidence says it was, then whoever knew all 3 of them was still walking free. Let's open the board. The location: South Croydon, London, England. And Edmund Duff, the victim. Chapter 2. The family on Birdhurst Rise. South Croydon, London. A quiet, respectable corner of the city. The streets here: Birdhurst Rise, South Park Hill Road, were home to people of comfort and standing. Edmund Duff was 59 years old. He was, by every account, a settled, respectable man. His sister-in-law, Vera Sidney, lived nearby. Vera's mother, Violet Sidney, was close by too. The family clustered within easy reach of one another. They were a family that shared its life, its meals, its routines, its daily rhythms. Between April 1928 and March 1929, all 3 of them died. Each death came after a sudden, violent illness. Arsenic was found in every one of them. Think about what you know of this family. How close they lived. How much they shared. Investigators would later say the shared meals and domestic routines were the key. A key they almost missed entirely. On the board so far: Edmund Duff, the victim. Now we pin up Vera Sidney, the victim. Chapter 3. The first to fall. South Croydon, London, April 1928. Edmund Duff was 59 years old, a retired colonial servant, living quietly with his family. By all accounts, that April evening seemed ordinary. Then Edmund fell, suddenly, violently ill. He did not recover. Edmund Duff was buried in April 1928, and the world moved on. An older man, a sudden illness. It seemed on the surface to need no further explanation. That was the easy answer, and for a time everyone accepted it. But later, much later, Edmund's body was exhumed, and inside him, arsenic was waiting. Think about what that means. And think about this with me. Someone had access to Edmund Duff that ordinary evening, and we still do not know who. On the board so far, Vera Sidney, the victim. Now we pin up Violet Sidney, the victim. Chapter 4. The easy answer crumbles. At first, the death of Edmund Duff in April 1928 looked like misfortune. He had been unwell. His symptoms were agonizing, but such things happened. Investigators accepted it. Perhaps contaminated medicine. Perhaps simply bad luck. Then, in February 1929, Vera Sidney fell ill. The same family circle, the same agonizing symptoms. Vera Sidney died. One death might be accident, but two in the same household, 9 months apart. Think about what that means for the timeline, and ask yourself, was someone choosing their moments? On the board so far, Violet Sidney, the victim. Now we pin up April 1928. Edmund Duff dies after sudden illness. Chapter 5. Vera, then Violet. February 1929. Vera Sidney fell ill, suddenly and without clear explanation. The illness followed a pattern already familiar in that household. Vera died. Her mother, Violet Sidney, was still living in the same house. Weeks passed. Only weeks. Then Violet too fell ill, with the same progression of symptoms. Violet died in March 1929. Two women, the same home, the same household routine, the same terrible end. Arsenic was later found in both. Think about the gap between these deaths. 11 months between Edmund and Vera, then barely weeks before Violet. If someone was responsible, whoever that was, why were they suddenly moving faster? On the board so far, April 1928. Edmund Duff dies after sudden illness. Now we pin up February 1929. Vera Sidney dies after sudden illness. Chapter 6. What the exhumations revealed. The graves on Birdhurst Rise did not stay closed. Investigators ordered the exhumations of all three: Edmund Duff, Vera Sidney, and Violet Sidney. Post-mortem examinations were conducted on each body in turn. Arsenic was found in Edmund. Arsenic was found in Vera. And arsenic was found in Violet. 3 bodies, 3 poisons, 1 family. The inquests delivered their verdict. At least some of these deaths were murder. There was no explaining this away. The evidence was, at last, undeniable. And here is where I want you to weigh this with me. The same poison, the same family, 3 deaths across less than a year. What does that pattern tell you about motive, about opportunity, about who moved through this household? Because the one thing investigators could not answer, the thing that haunts this case still, is how the arsenic was given, and by whose hand. On the board so far, February 1929. Vera Sidney dies after sudden illness. Now we pin up March 1929. Violet Sidney dies after sudden illness. And 1929, bodies exhumed, arsenic found in all 3. Chapter 7. The Poison and the Table. Arsenic is a patient poison. It has no color and almost no taste. It can be folded into almost anything: a broth, a drink, a bowl of food. That was always the difficulty for investigators. The household on Birdhurst Rise ran on shared routines. Meals were prepared and served in the same rooms, by the same small number of people, day after day. That shared routine, the very thing that held the household together, was also what made it so dangerous. Investigators understood this. The circle of people who could have reached each victim in the right moment was very small. And yet how the arsenic was given to Edmund Duff, to Vera, to Violet, was never proven. Think about that for a moment, and ask yourself what that silence in the evidence tells us. The setting was clear, domestic, intimate, confined. The means was proven by science. But if the room was small and the poison was real, why could no one ever place a hand on who stood at the center of it? On the board so far, 1929, bodies exhumed, arsenic found in all three. Now we pin up a key clue: arsenic in all three bodies. Chapter 8. Theories the inquest heard. 3 deaths, 1 family, 1 poison, and no clear answer for who put it there. The inquests heard 3 competing theories, and each one had to account for the same terrible fact. The first theory was accident. Arsenic appeared in everyday households of that era, in weed killers, in tonics, in the walls themselves. But the quantities found inside these 3 bodies were not accidental traces. The second theory, self-administration, was harder still to sustain across 3 separate deaths. For 1 death, perhaps. But for Edmund Duff, then Vera Sidney, then Violet Sidney, within 11 months? That left the third theory, deliberate murder, by a person or persons unknown. Think about what that requires. Someone with access to each victim at the right moment, more than once. Consider that with me for a moment. What does the timeline alone tell you about who that person could be? Every theory had an answer, and every answer had a flaw. The inquests could not close the door, and what lay behind it has never, to this day, been named. On the board so far, a key clue: arsenic in all 3 bodies. Now we pin up a key clue: post-mortem exhumation findings. Chapter 9. No charge, no name, no ending. 3 bodies, 3 post-mortems, 3 verdicts of murder by arsenic. The evidence was there, confirmed, official, and yet no one was charged. Not one person was formally named as a suspect by any authority. The inquests returned their verdicts, and then the machinery of justice stopped. No trial was ever convened. The case was simply closed. Whoever administered arsenic to Edmund Duff, to Vera Sidney, to Violet Sidney, walked away clean. We still do not know whether the same hand was responsible for all 3 deaths. We don't know how the poison was given. Think about what that means. Arsenic confirmed, murder declared, and still nothing. What do you make of that silence? Is it incompetence, insufficient evidence, or something else entirely? The poisoner of Birdhurst Rise was never named, but the question of why authority went silent may be the darkest clue of all. On the board so far, a key clue: post-mortem exhumation findings. Now we pin up a key clue: inquest murder verdicts. Chapter 10. Your turn. Solve the board. Let's lay it all out. 3 people, 1 family, dead within 11 months. Edmund Duff, April 1928. Vera Sidney, February 1929. Violet Sidney, just weeks later, March 1929. Exhumations confirmed what suspicion had whispered. Arsenic in all three. The circle of opportunity was vanishingly small. Someone inside that household, or close enough to it, had access. Now consider the gaps narrowing. Each death closer than the last. Here's where I want you. What does that pattern tell you about motive? No charge was ever brought. The case remains to this day officially unsolved. Tell us your theory in the comments. The timeline, the motive, the shape of it. And if this case stays with you, subscribe so the next chapter finds you. Back to the board.